Please give a big warm welcome for Gary King.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Andy. I'd like to thank Andy and Sheila and Jason and Di as well for the years that they've been putting on this event. Such an honour to be speaking here, really. Glastonbury. Whenever I come here, I think this is the town that's anything is possible. We can talk about things that you can't normally talk about in other places. I was thinking about a woman I once met when I came over who found a cockroach that wasn't very well. And she put it in a matchbox and gave it some rescue remedy. Sadly, the cockroach never made it, but bless her. Okay, let's get down to business. My talk today is called Those Left Behind. Andy has mentioned I'm predominantly a crop circle researcher. I've been involved now for this is my 21st year. And during that time, I've become very good friends with people like Jaime Maussan and Ajay Javara and Peter Robbins and a bunch of UFO researchers that I consider to be credible. And you share stories and you find out stuff. And so a couple of cases have come up which I found particularly interesting because most people think that crop circle research or UFO research, paranormal research, is about proving to the non-believers that our mission in life is to go out and show, look, there's the evidence. But that's not always what we do. There are other reasons that we conduct our research. And with regards to UFOs, crop circles and so on, there's phenomena A and phenomena B. There's the lights in the sky, and then there's our response to it. How we respond to witnesses and contactees, how we respond to anybody that comes forward and says something about having had some form of paranormal experience. And I think that in phenomena B, there is a richness of data, sociologically, psychologically, culturally, that's relevant for our research and our inquiries to find out what this phenomena might be about or what a collection of phenomena might be about. So I've called it Those Left Behind because I specifically want to talk about the people who get left behind after they have these contactee experiences. There's just one quote I want to go back to, just a moment. John Keel, in his pioneering book in 1970, Trojan Horse, Operation Trojan Horse, encouraged us almost half a century ago to stop focusing on the lights in the sky and start looking closely at the effects these phenomena have on people, witnesses and contactees. He said the real meaning and purpose behind the UFO phenomena is not some machine in the sky, but with those that are transformed by them. The secret of contact lies with the contactees. Academics call the subject of the paranormal a water basket problem. The term paranormal was devised by academics in the 1880s to predominantly investigate poltergeist phenomenon. But pretty quick, within 100 years, it became this kind of umbrella term for anything that's paranormal, healing, crop circles, UFOs. It all gets lumped in. And pretty much these days, if you say that you're investigating or attending a conference even on the paranormal, it kind of means to other people, not normal. I don't think that's what it was originally intended to be, you know. Under this broad umbrella, however, we find that there's millennia-old stories of folklore. We go back in history, you know, no religion ever started without some guy having a paranormal experience. The question comes with whether or not you convince other people that it actually happened. I mean, Moses did a pretty good job. He came down and told people he had a conversation with a bush on fire, and still people believe him. So some get some different degrees of success, it seems, with relaying their stories, and others don't. Often these experiences contain, Jacques Vallée called it the supernatural assault, when somebody has a supernatural or paranormal experience, because it's quite shaking. And the actual definition that was coined by these French academics of a paranormal experience was something which is both subjective and objective at the same time. You see something, but also something takes place inside. It might be a series of fantastic coincidences that led you to that event. It might be that you get some telepathic message that the earth is burning up and we need to do something about it. Something else happens to the individual simultaneously with the paranormal experience, and that seems to be a good definition of something paranormal, when it affects inside and outside of us. And so I've been very interested in the research of a man called Jeffrey Kripal. He's a professor of comparative literature, mystical literature, and he talks about the cultural filter that we have. And so you look at experiences, people who have experiences through the ages, and you know, when fairies were in, you know, it was fairies down the garden. If you go to Mexico, it's Chupacabra that's kidnapping the kids until aliens come along, and then it's UFOs. And we kind of frame things up through our cultural filter without really looking at it. But when you look at the data, the same patterns of what happens to people, the transformations that they go through, is consistent. And so, you know, you can come up with theories about, you know, is our mind culturally filtering these experiences, or is the, whatever it is, the other intelligence presenting itself to us in a way that would be the most acceptable way to us? Either way, it's the parallels between an experience that might not be a UFO, that might be a kind of, you know, a transformationary healing experience, and the patterns that emerge from that in the person at the time and subsequently. And also, when you look at compare that to people who have UFO or other experiences, you see the same patterns. And that's really what I want to get to. So pretty much my presentation today is going to focus on those left behind. And I'm going to talk about Westall in 1966, first of all. This is a fascinating story. The incident occurred on the 6th of April 1966. Two schools were involved, a secondary school called Westall High School and a primary school called Westall State School. At break time, when the children were playing in the yard, one child saw a UFO in the sky and alerted everyone else around her. She ran into the school and told the science teacher, Mr. Greenwood, what was going on. Now, I've pulled out a lot of YouTube clips with interviews with the witnesses for this presentation, because I think that nobody speaks better than the person themselves. So here's the first clip.
This boy come running in and say, Mr. Greenwood, there's these things in the sky, there's these things in the sky.
We looked up and we just saw this saucer type thing taking off.
It wasn't a plane, it wasn't a balloon, it was nothing like that.
A lot of the kids took off towards where it seemed to go.
All the students were just running all over the place, hysterical.
Westall High School as a teaching situation ceased.
My girlfriend and I sat on the fence, climbed the fence, the school boundary, and we were crying, thinking it was the end of the world.
50 years later, these witnesses, some witnesses, a number of them have come forward. We sat on the fence and cried because we thought it was the end of the world. These were children that were about 12 and a half years of age. There were 585 students in total in the schools. About 300 to 400 of them witnessed the event, plus 3 teachers. My first question with someone who, as a young girl, has to sit on the fence with her friend thinking the world's going to end is that after an event like that, how do you not get PTSD or something? You surely need a lot of love and compassion and understanding from grown-ups, even if you don't believe them, right? So, did they get love and compassion? Not really. Let's have a look.
This is a mystery story that has, as its setting, a school. And most of the players were school children. They had this extraordinary experience, which they then tried to share with adults. And a lot of them had a lot of trouble doing that. They were disbelieved, almost stigmatized.
I think, like a lot of other people, I just shut up about it because of the ridicule. And it was everybody. You know, you were a kid, you were making it up. So you just be quiet, and in your mind, you just think, I know what I saw, and no one's ever going to shake me from that. I know what I saw.
I really felt for them as people who had this incredible experience, and yet they haven't been able to make sense of it.
Ridicule and condemnation. No love and compassion. This is typical, isn't it? Everybody knows that this is how people get treated when they come forward with a paranormal experience. But this case is particularly interesting because it's 1960s. The response on behalf of the government and the authorities is quite different to what we see often today. My own experience, I was a lawyer in 1996, 3 kids, family, you know, going out there trying to make your way in the world. And when something powerful happens to you, you get faced with this choice. You know, you go, all right, I'll go and tell my friends. My friends will say, okay, fair enough, you know, what drugs were you on? But then does it grab you enough to change your life? Does it grab you enough to say, well, look, I think there's something very serious in this that's life-changing and transforming, and I'm going to follow it. I'm going to give up my regular life. Well, that's what I did. And so I've personally got the experiences of how people responded to me and how they do today. Even this week, I discovered a crop circle last week while I was out with a couple of people on a tour. We just drove along the road, and there was one that hadn't been reported. We stopped, flew the drone, I took a photograph, posted it online. And now I've been receiving lots of questions this week that I orchestrated a bunch of guys to go and make it so that I could sell the tour to the people. You know, you get all this crap, right? But it still goes on, and this is what we do to each other. This is the real issue of what happens to those left behind. Some of the children were affected quite badly by this experience at Westall.
Everyone started moving, like a whole lot of zebras being terrified by crocodiles. I went where the herd went. Was the chemistry teacher at the time. And she just grabbed a camera and started clicking.
Several students fainted or reacted very badly to the incident. One girl called Tanya was taken away in an ambulance, and her friends said that they never ever saw her again. I'll come back to that in a little while. There's an update on that story. Shane Ryan, the main investigator who produced this documentary, carried out extensive research and actually tracked her down. She said that she didn't want to speak about it, particularly not on record, but she said that she was given ECT therapy after the incident and has no memory of the incident ever happening, or any memories of anything before that age. So it's mass hysteria. Kids are thinking it's the end of the world. Others are being taken away in ambulances. What happens next?
That afternoon, our principal called a special assembly and told us all not to talk about it.
All I know is the whole school was told off. The headmaster says, all you kids are nuts. It's a weather balloon. Don't talk about it.
I was prepped to tell the students that what they'd seen didn't exist. We weren't allowed to leave the school, at least I wasn't. My job was to walk up and down the corridors and make sure that all students were in their rooms. I was walking back from the West End. There was a confrontation between Mr. Sambleby, Barbara Robbins, and a man I'd never seen before. I thought it was a police uniform, but it was just dark blue. It was demanded that she hand over, not the film, but the entire camera.
I was near the gate and the police had arrived.
There were journalists outside. The police had been caught in to keep the journalists away.
We were told that we weren't allowed to speak to the media in school grounds. After school finished, there was a TV crew outside the school grounds, so we undertook an interview with them.
Everyone took off onto the oval.
Now, I can't remember whether it was a principal or a school representative that came out and ordered us to go home and the film crew to leave.
And I'd actually been giving an interview to Channel 9 and the policeman actually walked up to them and said, stop filming and you go back into the school ground. Okay, so that's what I did. I was 12 and a half years old.
Because I was a mischievous sort of person, I was always getting into trouble. I had detention for actually appearing on the show, and then I got detention again at a later date after my picture and story was in the Dan Allen Journal. So it didn't go unpunished, but it was worth it.
If it wasn't for that sort of spirit, huh? God loves a rebel. I know I do. Detention for talking to the media. Told you're all nuts to children. And the teachers knew that they weren't nuts, but they had to do what they were being told by the authorities that turned up. Channel 9 Media, the media outlet that conducted the interview, broadcast parts of it on TV that night, but subsequent search of their archives found empty film canisters. It's all gone. The reporter who conducted the interview gave a statement to Shane Ryan and confirmed that he was there filming the interviews, but has no idea what happened to the footage. A reporter from a local newspaper was interviewed, and he remembers very clearly that the students and teachers were warned not to speak to him. So they're all told to keep quiet, they're all deluded, and whatever else was needed to make the whole thing go away. Is this healthy for a mind of 12 and 13-year-old children? As you'll see, the experience has defined the ensuing lives of some of those children who continue to seek proof for what they saw and somehow prove that they're not crazy.
As far as I know, only the science teacher, Andrew Greenwood, saw the object in the air. Although he's spoken with me privately, he refuses to go on the public record. Several teachers dismissed the whole thing as mass hysteria. The response left students feeling confused and conflicted. Some are still searching for answers.
I want to find some sort of proof that this happened, so we don't keep on, you know, getting called silly people. And you know, no one's ever wanted to know the details before. They just think I'm stupid, and you know, they don't want to know the story. They just, I said, I've seen UFOs or flying saucers, and they say, yeah, sure. What drugs were you on that day? And you know, I was 13 years old. I was at school in the daytime. I wasn't on any drugs.
50 years, huh? Defines that woman's life. Everybody tells her she's mad. Everybody tells her she's crazy. How cruel is this? And it still continues. And yet she knows there's something, and it's defined her life. And you have to extrapolate the issue as well, because if we consider that there is another intelligence, we don't know if it's extraterrestrial, we don't know, but if there is another intelligence that is interacting with us, it knows this is going to be the fallout, because it knows what we're all doing here on Earth. I'm really convinced of that. And so then you ask yourself, well, why would it treat little children so badly? Are they worthy?